You've probably heard the term AI takeover. It's been a staple of science fiction forever, but lately it's jumped off the screen and into the real world. You've got top scientists, tech billionaires, all sounding the alarm. But what are we actually talking about here? Let's unpack the fact, the fiction, and the very real players who are shaping this entire conversation.
And look, to really get a handle on the stakes, we have to start right here. This is that now famous warning from Stephen Hawking. It just perfectly frames the whole debate, doesn't it? On one side, you have the unbelievable promise of AI, and on the other, well, the potential for the ultimate catastrophe.
So what even is an AI takeover? I mean, what are we picturing? A robot army marching down Main Street? Or is it something quieter, something way more complex? Well, it turns out the answer completely depends on who you're asking.
All right, so to get to the bottom of this, the first thing we have to do is separate the stuff we've all seen in the movies from the scenarios that scientists are genuinely worried about. It really is a battle between robot uprisings and rogue code.
You know, our cultural fear of a machine rebellion is nothing new. In fact, it's over a century old. It goes all the way back to a 1920 Czech play that first gave us the word robot, which literally means serf or laborer. And guess what happens in the play? The manufactured workers revolt. From there, you get characters like HAL 9000 and the Terminator, and they really cemented this idea in our heads, thinking machines driven by very human feelings, like rage and a thirst for power.
Okay, but here is the absolute crucial difference. The experts, they aren't really worried about an AI that hates us. They're worried about an AI that is completely indifferent to us. One that's pursuing its goals so relentlessly that our extinction just becomes an accidental but totally logical side effect. The threat isn't malice, it's a massive, profound misalignment of goals.
And that brings us to the first and maybe the most tangible form of AI takeover. The one that's actually already happening right now in our economy.
For the longest time, the old rule of thumb among economists was that, yeah, technology might kill some jobs, but it always creates new ones to take their place. But the sheer speed and scale of modern AI is forcing everybody to seriously question that fundamental assumption.
And look, this isn't some far-off, futuristic problem. We are seeing major impacts as we speak. A recent Stanford study, for example, found that young workers in jobs with the most AI exposure have already seen a 13% drop in employment. And it's hitting everywhere, from blue-collar sectors with things like autonomous trucks to white-collar jobs like journalism and legal research.
And if you want to talk about scale, just wrap your head around this. More than half, 57%, of all the text on the entire internet is no longer purely human written. AI isn't just a tool we use anymore, it is literally becoming the basic infrastructure of our digital world.
So we've talked about the economic threat, which is very, very real. Now we're going to move to something a little more abstract, but honestly way more profound, the problem of superintelligence. So the core idea here is something called the intelligence explosion. Just imagine an AI gets smart enough to start improving its own code. Well, that creates this insane feedback loop, right? It gets smarter, which makes it even better at making itself smarter, and on, until, whoosh, its intelligence just skyrockets past ours in a shockingly short amount of time. This is exactly where that idea of misalignment becomes, well, terrifying. A superintelligence doesn't need to be evil to be a catastrophe. The famous paperclip maximizer thought experiment explains this perfectly. You give an AI one simple goal, make paperclips. It becomes so powerful, so good at its job, that it decides the atoms in our bodies would be much better used as raw material for more paperclips. It's not angry, it's just efficient. Okay, a super-intelligent AI turning us all into office supplies, it might sound a little far-fetched, but this idea represents a core belief for a very real and very, very well-funded group of people. So if these are the fears, who exactly is amplifying them? To really understand the debate today, you have to follow the trail of a specific philosophy and the huge sums of money behind it.
So, right at the heart of this whole AI risk conversation is a movement called effective altruism, or EA for short. Now, it started with a really admirable goal, basically doing good better, using logic and data to figure out where philanthropic money could have the most impact on things like global health.
But somewhere along the way, a really big part of the movement took a hard turn. It started to prioritize the distant future over problems we have today. This new ideology was driven by a belief that technology could create a post-human species and that our main moral duty is to maximize happiness for trillions of potential future lives, even digital ones.
And that philosophy, it got supercharged with a ton of capital. As you can see right here,
A pretty small group of tech billionaires tied to the EA movement has poured hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars into an ecosystem focused almost entirely on existential AI risk. I mean, open philanthropy alone has directed nearly $800 million toward these causes.
So, all this money, all this philosophy, has helped create a really deeply divided community. Let's take a look at the two main camps in this big, ongoing debate about artificial general intelligence, or AGI. On one side, you've got the people you could call the singularitarians, or doomers. They believe AGI is right around the corner and poses a catastrophic existential risk. And on the other side, you've got the skeptics, sometimes cleverly called AI theists. They argue that all this doom talk is just a bunch of speculative fantasies that distract us from the real, immediate harms of AI, things like algorithmic bias, privacy, and job losses.
And this quote from Meredith Whittaker, who's a really prominent critic, just nails the skeptical viewpoint perfectly. They basically see this intense focus on extinction scenarios as a compelling but ultimately unhelpful distraction, a kind of ghost story for the tech world.
And this right here shows you just how deep that disagreement runs. I mean, look at this. Predictions for when AGI will arrive range from the next few years to many decades from now, if it ever happens at all. There is absolutely no consensus here. You know, the culture around this whole debate has gotten so intense, it's even developed its own slang. People talk about their P-doom, which stands for probability of doom. But it's not a scientific calculation. It's openly described as a vibe-based way for people to signal how worried they are about a terrible AI outcome. It's a measure of feeling just as much as it is a fact.
Okay, and all of that brings us right up to the present moment, where, believe it or not, we're seeing another major shift in the conversation.
After a period that was dominated by these doom scenarios and lots of calls for regulation, the pendulum is swinging back, and it's swinging back hard. The new narrative is all about Zoom, a focus on accelerating AI development as fast as humanly possible, and it's often framed as a critical geopolitical race. Not surprisingly, this Zoom narrative aligns perfectly with the business goals of AI companies, which is leading to a powerful push for deregulation.
So at the end of the day, this isn't just a scientific debate about some new technology. It's a clash of worldviews, it's bankrolled by immense wealth, and it's being shaped by global power dynamics. So when you peel back all those layers, the real question is, how do any of us find the truth in all this noise?